We start with what Texas miracle, and we're asking that question, what Texas miracle? David Cornyn is Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones and an MSNBC political analyst, and the delightful Dana Milbank of the Washington Post joins us after far too long a hiatus, if I must say. I do miss you. Let's go to this whole thing. Let's take a look at these numbers here. If you look at the numbers this way, the unemployment rate is rising up to 8.5% in Texas. Right. Texas. But it's coming down nationally, at least. It hasn't been great. It's stalled a bit down. But it's come down to from something like well over 10% nationwide in 2009. So in a way, the directions are off. A guy who's saying I'm the big job creator is having unemployment rise. The president's got a problem, is at least going in the other direction.
Well, Rick Perry always had a claim with the Texas miracle before now because there's been a tremendous population increase in Texas, which has led to jobs going up there. And also high energy prices have been good for Texas. It's bad for us in the Northeast. They're good for Texas down there and created jobs. But now, with all that being put to the side, we see unemployment going up. There's a lot of low-wage jobs, too, in Texas. So his claim to be a model for the rest of the country is falling apart. What made Texas, somewhat better than the other states in job creation up to now was something that couldn't be replicated in other states. It wasn't because of his policies. It was because of the weather and the conditions there. But now,
conditions, the key word. Here's a guy who's lived by conditions, attacked Obama by conditions, and now finds himself, Dan Milbank, suffering the consequences. Because presidents and governments don't necessarily control the unemployment rate.
No, right. You've got the Texas miracle meeting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre right now. And the massacre is this nationwide economy. Now, it's not Rick Perry's fault that he has 8.5% unemployment.
Was it his fault that was it his claim to fame that it was lower?
It shouldn't have been, and it's not Barack Obama's fault that there's 9.1% unemployment nationwide. Look, the president is going to get blamed for the economy no matter what. So he'll suffer from that regardless, but I think this is another lesson here that these guys don't actually control anything. The trend in Texas has been this way for 20 years. As Mitt Romney loves to point out, the job growth rate was triple under Ann Richards and George W. Bush. It just happens, it's the luck of the draw. When you show up in office and when you leave, these trends are larger than...
Well, here's his defense. A Perry spokesperson weighed in on the jobs numbers today by saying, quote, Texas is not immune to the effects of the national recession. Even during this national economic downturn, which the president's misguided policies have only worsened, Texas remains the nation's top economy, attracting jobs and growing by more than 1,000 people. Excuse me, a day. This is still a problem. I contend it's a problem. When your unemployment rate is going up and the nationwide employment is coming a bit down.
Listen, Rick Perry had a glow in the race when people didn't know that much about Rick Perry. Now, as he's in the debates and he's saying all sorts of pretty outlandish or stupid things, people are taking a second look at him. Independents are falling off in droves. And on top of this, we're now looking in detail, not at the headline, Texas Miracle, but at the actual numbers and what's happening currently. There's no way he can sustain the I did great in Texas storyline if unemployment goes up in the next few months there.
And guess who's noticed? Romney.
Well,
Romney's putting out these emails today. Let's take a look. They're out there, aren't they?
Yeah, this is the beginning of the opposition wars. I mean,
Mitt Romney's campaign has actually been putting out those emails, like this one attacking Rick Perry this week. They were quick to circulate the jobs numbers in his email blast this afternoon. So the fight's on. They're trashing. So you got Romney trashing Mr. Job Creation for losing jobs. Let me go to this last night. Here's Perry last night in this fight. It's an interesting fight that everybody's watching between Perry right now and Romney. Let's take a look. Here's Perry last night in Jefferson, Iowa. He has taken off the gloves. He is singling out Mitt Romney, going after the governor of Massachusetts, the ex one, by name, or not by name, but by position. Let's listen.
One of my opponents in the Republican primary, while he was the governor of Massachusetts, their job creation in that state was 47th in the nation. Government mandated, government-run health care. It is part of what he put in place as the governor of Massachusetts. It is time, I think it's very important that we put someone as our nominee that does not blur the lines between President Obama and the Republican Party. The job creation in Massachusetts and that legacy of health care in Massachusetts even makes it worse today.
I get the feeling that Rick Perry, who's always been a superstar at sort of the pizzazz of politics, the show, the hat, now he has to get into notes. He's got notes on his like turned out. He's not as quite as fluent.
Not good to have notes for Rick Perry because he should be, waving his hat and riding in on his horse. I think Romney has rattled him a bit. And I think in a strange sense, Rick Perry has been good for Mitt Romney, who finally found himself as sort of the economic maven in this race. But it really has emboldened Romney. And you could see during the debate, Perry almost feeling like, who are these people? How dare they question me?
My advisors never told me this was going to happen.
No, he's getting more like he's running Meet the Press. I mean, because Romney has now become the guy who says, well, let's take a look at what you said. He was like Tim in the old days. Let's take a look at what you said a year ago on Social Security. Let's take a look at what you said. And this guy's now got to defend it against a fellow Republican.
Rick Perry was the good prospect. But now it's like, welcome to the majors. And if you remember the movie Bull Durham, you get the sense that Mitt Romney wants to call him, hey, Meat, this is how we do it here. You haven't been around the last few months, but you're going to have to answer this, and you're going to have to deal with bad news, because guess what? He is a functioning governor. Mitt Romney is not responsible for anything now except his own campaign. So on death penalty issues, on the environment, on the economy, whatever he does in Texas in the next few months is going to be open to scrutiny, the way that Barack Obama's governance is open to scrutiny. It's a lot to
So is it your sense, guys who watch this all the time, before we move on with my own notes here, do you think it's possible that here we are in September of the year before, which is coming up quickly on the Iowa caucuses, that could come very quickly at the beginning of next year, which is, we're in that campaign now. Do you think there could be a dynamic here that Romney could play the role of basically the press, because these guys don't talk to the press hardly anymore. He will be the interrogator, the old Meet the Press, the current Meet the Press too. He will just start taking them apart point by point, every week, point by point, till there's not really much left of this guy, Perry. And then Romney will come along as sort of like the prosecutor, but never that popular with the Tea Party people, and become sort of their nominee by default.
Yeah, I think you really have the potential in this race to have the sort of a Donnybrook in the Republican Party primary that we have not seen in many, many years. I mean, not even really with Bush McCain. You really have two solid guys. Well, maybe not the party's best, but very equally matched contenders, well financed, able to go at each other for a few months. The president is in a terribly vulnerable position and saying, how did he get so blessed to have this sort of thing going on?
So it will be like one of those old Thomas Aikens paintings of the two boxers with fists with no boxing gloves, pounding each other till they're bleeding all over the place.
Think of a Rocky film. I don't know, Rocky 7 or 8 or 9. And the other thing is that this year there are fewer winner-take-all states. So if you come in second in one of these primaries, you will still collect votes for delegates. So that will keep both of them in the race for as long as they can keep on standing. So if there's no knockout blow early on, this could go on for a long time.
I was at a briefing with the president. I can't quote it, but I got the sense coming out of that briefing that this is the White House. Let them do this.
Well, I think right now they're not engaging, which is the right thing to do. They don't know who they're going to get out of this. Let them bloody themselves up. Mitt Romney's opposition team, which we saw go into operation this week, is the White House's best friend at the moment, even though I think they do want to run against
Okay, let's talk about how well they're doing this, because here's Romney going after Perry, not just on this new jobs thing that they jumped on today, but his essential charge against the existence of Social Security. I was listening to Rundown this morning on this network, and I was listening to one of these guys say, hey, look, they're not just against Social Security as it needs to be refined, they're against it institutionally. There shouldn't be Social Security, basically. If they level that charge and landed, doesn't Perry have a hard time coming back and saying, oh, yeah, I really do believe in Social Security?
He's had a very difficult time of it so far, and the way the Democrats have handled this so far is to say, to actually try to link Romney to Perry and say they are identical. And the truth is, in terms of private accounts, they are basically identical in terms of Social Security.
So for the next couple months, it looks like these guys are going to be doing your job for you, basically, you two guys.
Basically, we're going to go out for a drink.
Send us more emails.
Just keep the email account from Romney on Perry and Perry on Romney. The job's done. Thank you, Dave. Have a nice weekend, guys. Great guys. David Corn, and really welcome back, Dana Milbank.
Thank you.
You are a blistering critic.